I found out my wife was cheating because she forgot to log out of a chat on our shared laptop. And the worst part? I wasn't even looking for anything. It was a Tuesday night. Nothing special. Just another boring evening after work. My wife, Emily, had gone to bed early saying she was exhausted. I stayed in the living room finishing a few emails for work on the laptop we both used. We had always trusted each other with devices. Same passwords, same laptop, same everything. I never had a reason to snoop. Honestly, the thought never even crossed my mind. But that night something strange happened. When I opened the browser, a messaging tab was already open. I didn't recognize the site at first. Some kind of web messenger. And there it was, a conversation. At first I thought it might be spam or something work-related. But then I saw her name. Emily. My stomach dropped instantly. The last message on the screen read, "I still can't believe we did that yesterday." I keep replaying it in my head. My heart started pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I scrolled up before I could even stop myself. And that's when the entire world I thought I lived in shattered. This wasn't some innocent chat. This was weeks, maybe months, of messages between my wife and another guy named Daniel. They weren't even trying to hide it. They talked about meeting at hotels when I was at work. About how careful they had to be so I wouldn't find out. About how exciting it was. One message made my hands literally shake. "He still thinks I'm working late tomorrow. Same place." And then his reply. "Room 214. I already booked it. Can't wait to have you again." I had to read it 3 times before it even felt real. I sat there frozen. My brain trying to process what my eyes were seeing. 12 years of marriage, reduced to secret hotel rooms and cheap messages. I kept scrolling. Photos. Selfies. Messages late at night when she was lying next to me pretending to sleep. My chest felt tight like someone was squeezing the air out of me. Part of me wanted to storm upstairs right that second and confront her. Wake her up. Throw the laptop in her face. But something stopped me. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was anger. Or maybe, it was something colder. Because the more I read, the calmer I became. And that's when I noticed something important. They were incredibly careless. Dates. Locations. Hotel confirmations. Even screenshots of bookings. It was all there. Page after page of proof. I slowly leaned back in the chair and stared at the screen. If she was going to destroy our marriage like this, the least I could do was make sure the truth followed her. So instead of yelling, instead of confronting her, I started taking screenshots. Every message. Every photo. Every confirmation email. Everything. By the time I finished, it was almost 3 in the morning. My hands were numb from scrolling and saving files. Upstairs my wife was sleeping peacefully. Completely unaware that her entire secret life was now sitting in a folder on my desktop. And in that moment I made a decision. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't even going to argue. I was going to let the court do it for me. Because the next morning, I called a lawyer. And what he told me changed everything. The next morning I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes I saw those messages again. The hotel bookings. The way she joked with him about how easy it was to lie to me. The casual way she talked about sneaking around. 12 years of marriage, and apparently it was that simple for her. But instead of confronting her, I acted normal. That morning Emily came downstairs like any other day. She poured herself coffee, kissed me on the cheek, and asked if I wanted eggs for breakfast. I looked at her and wondered how someone could lie so easily. "Big day today?" I asked casually. She nodded. "Yeah, might have to stay late at work again. We're finishing a project." The same excuse I had seen in the messages. I almost laughed. "Okay," I said. "Drive safe." She smiled, grabbed her bag, and left the house. The moment the door closed, my calm disappeared. My hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't shock. It was focus. I opened the laptop and looked at the folder again. Screenshots. Dozens of them. Enough to destroy every lie she had told. But I knew emotions alone weren't enough. If I was going to do this properly, I needed someone who understood the legal side. So I called a divorce lawyer. His name was Mark. When I walked into his office later that afternoon, I felt like I was carrying a weight on my shoulders that had suddenly doubled overnight. He sat across from me, calm and professional. "So," he said, "tell me what's going on." I took a deep breath and opened the laptop. Then I showed him everything. At first he just watched quietly while scrolling through the screenshots. But after a few minutes he leaned back in his chair and raised his eyebrows. "Wow," he said. "Yeah," I replied. He scrolled again. Hotel confirmations. Dates. Messages planning meetups while I was at work. Finally he closed the laptop and looked at me. "This is extremely useful," he said. I frowned. "Useful?" He nodded. "You documented everything. Dates, locations, evidence of ongoing infidelity. In court, that matters." For the first time since the night before, I felt something other than anger. Control. He explained how things worked. Divorce wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about assets, property, finances. And if infidelity could be proven clearly, it could affect how everything was divided. And I had proof. Lots of it. But Mark gave me one important piece of advice. Do not confront her yet. I blinked. What? If you confront her now, he said, she'll panic. She might delete evidence. Move money. Prepare her own legal defense. He leaned forward. The strongest position you can have is when she doesn't know what's coming. The room went quiet for a moment. So what do I do? I asked. Mark gave a small smile. You act normal. I almost laughed again. Normal? Yes, he said. Let her think everything is fine. Meanwhile we prepare the case. He started listing steps. Financial records. Bank accounts. Property documents. And the evidence folder. The more he talked, the clearer everything became. This wasn't going to be an emotional explosion. This was going to be a strategy. A legal one. By the time I left his office, we already had a plan. And that night when Emily came home from her late meeting, I greeted her the same way I always did. I asked about her day. I listened to her lies. And she had absolutely no idea that the clock had already started ticking. Because 2 weeks later, she was going to receive something in the mail that would change her life forever. Divorce papers. And attached to them, every single screenshot. For the next 2 weeks, I lived a strange double life. On the outside, everything looked completely normal. Emily and I had dinner together. We watched TV in the evenings. Sometimes she would sit next to me on the couch and lean her head on my shoulder like nothing in the world was wrong. And every time she did that, I had to remind myself to stay calm. Because now I knew the truth. While she was pretending to be the perfect wife at home, she was still messaging Daniel when she thought I wasn't looking. Late at night. Early in the morning. Even sometimes sitting just a few feet away from me. The messages kept coming. And every time she left the laptop open again, I quietly saved more screenshots. More proof. More evidence. At some point the anger inside me stopped feeling like a burning fire and started feeling like ice. Cold. Focused. Controlled. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was preparing. Mark, my lawyer, had been working fast. Within days we had already gathered everything needed to file for divorce. Financial documents, property records, bank statements. And the evidence folder. By the time we were done, it looked like a full investigation file. Hotel reservations. Dates. Conversations describing their meetings. Photos she had sent him. Mark told me something that stuck in my head. In court, stories don't matter. Evidence does. And we had plenty of that. Meanwhile Emily kept acting like everything was fine. One night she even suggested we plan a weekend trip together. A trip. After everything she had been doing behind my back. I forced a smile and said we should think about it later. Inside I felt nothing. Just a strange calm. A few days later Mark called me. We're ready, he said. Those 2 words hit harder than I expected. Ready. 12 years of marriage coming to an end with a stack of documents. We scheduled everything carefully. The divorce filing. The evidence submission. And the moment Emily would officially receive the papers. Mark recommended serving them at her workplace. That way there would be witnesses, and she wouldn't be able to avoid it. At first I hesitated. Part of me wondered if that was too harsh. But then I remembered the messages. Room 214. He still thinks I'm working late. Yesterday was amazing. All the doubts disappeared. 2 days later, the plan was set in motion. I was sitting in my car in a parking lot when Mark called again. "It's done," he said. My heart started beating faster. She received the papers. For a moment I just sat there silently. How did she react? I asked. Mark gave a small chuckle. Apparently, not well. According to the process server, Emily had been completely shocked. First confusion. Then panic. Then anger. She kept saying there must be some mistake. But the moment she started flipping through the documents, everything changed. Because attached to the divorce filing were the screenshots. Pages and pages of them. The chat messages. The hotel bookings. The photos. Everything. Mark said she went pale when she saw them. Like someone had drained all the color from her face. The server told him she kept repeating the same sentence over and over. How does he know? How does he know? How does he know? I almost laughed when I heard that. For weeks she thought she was living a secret life. But in reality, every single move she made had been quietly documented. Mark told me she left work early that day. And about 2 hours later, my phone started ringing. Emily. I stared at the screen. The same name I had seen 100 times in those messages. It kept ringing. Then it stopped. A minute later it started again. And again. And again. Finally I answered. The moment I said hello, she started crying. Not quiet tears. Full panic. "What is this?" she shouted. Her voice was shaking. "What are these papers?" I stayed calm. "You should read them," I said. "I did read them," she screamed. Then there was silence for a second. And then the sentence I had been waiting to hear. "How did you find out?" I leaned back in my chair. And for the first time since that night, I allowed myself a small smile. "You left your chat open on the laptop." There was complete silence on the other side of the phone. No excuses. No denial. Just silence. And in that moment, she knew. Her secret life was over. But what she didn't realize yet was that the real consequences were only just beginning. For a few seconds after I told her how I found out, she said nothing. Complete silence. I could hear her breathing on the other side of the phone, shaky and uneven. It sounded like someone who had just realized the ground beneath them wasn't solid anymore. Then she finally spoke. You went through my messages." Her voice wasn't angry anymore. It was scared. I almost laughed at the irony. "You left them open," I said calmly. "I didn't have to go through anything." More silence. Then the excuses started. "It's not what you think." I closed my eyes and leaned back in the seat. I had heard those exact words in movies 1,000 times. But hearing them in real life, after everything I had read, felt almost surreal. "Emily," I said quietly, "there are 74 screenshots in that folder." She stopped talking. I continued. "There are hotel bookings. Dates. Photos. Conversations about how you lied to me." Her breathing got louder. "I can explain," she said quickly. "Go ahead." But she didn't. Because there was nothing left to explain. Eventually her voice broke into tears again. "I made a mistake. A mistake." That word hit something inside me. "A mistake is forgetting someone's birthday," I said. "You had a 6-month affair." She started crying harder. "Please, we can fix this." That sentence felt like it came from a different universe. "Fix this? After everything?" "No," I said. That one word seemed to crush the last bit of hope she had. She started begging. Saying she would end things with Daniel immediately. Saying we could go to counseling. Saying she would do anything. But it was too late. Not because I hated her. But because something fundamental had broken. Trust. And once that disappears, the relationship that depended on it disappears too. I already told you, I said calmly. The papers have been filed. Then I ended the call. For the next few days my phone exploded. Calls. Messages. Voicemails. At first it was apologies. Long emotional paragraphs about how she never meant to hurt me. Then it turned into panic. Questions about the house. About the bank accounts. About what was going to happen next. Then the anger started. She accused me of humiliating her. She said serving the papers at work was cruel. But the strangest part was that she never denied the affair. Not once. Because she knew she couldn't. A week later we saw each other in person for the first time since everything happened. At the lawyer's office. Emily looked completely different. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Her hair was messy. She looked like someone who hadn't slept properly in days. When she saw me, she immediately started crying again. "I'm so sorry," she said. Those were the first words she said to me face to face. But something inside me had changed. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I just felt distant. Like I was looking at someone I used to know. Her lawyer started discussing the divorce terms. Property division. Savings. The house. Everything moved surprisingly fast. Because the evidence made things very clear. Emily's lawyer tried to argue that the affair wasn't relevant to financial decisions. But Mark calmly presented the documentation. Dates. Hotel expenses. Message logs. Screenshots showing she had used shared funds for some of the hotel bookings. That part hit harder than anything. Not just betrayal. But betrayal paid for with money from our shared account. The room went quiet after that. Her lawyer looked frustrated. Emily looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. Eventually negotiations began. The house. Savings. Retirement accounts. In the end, the settlement heavily favored me. More than I expected, honestly. Mark later told me that the strength of the evidence made it difficult for the other side to fight aggressively. And Emily seemed too emotionally exhausted to push back. The divorce process that could have taken years, was finished in a few months. The last time I saw her was outside the courthouse. She looked smaller somehow. Like life had squeezed something out of her. She walked toward me slowly. "I ruined everything," she said quietly. For a moment I didn't know what to say. Then I gave the only honest answer I had. Yes. Tears filled her eyes again. I wish I could go back and change it. But life doesn't work like that. Actions have consequences. And sometimes those consequences are permanent. "I hope you find happiness," she said before leaving. I watched her walk away. 12 years of marriage ending with that sentence. You'd think I would feel something dramatic in that moment. Relief. Anger. Victory. But the truth is, I mostly felt calm. Because the chaos had ended. The lies were gone. The truth had come out. A few weeks later I heard something interesting through a mutual friend. Apparently Emily and Daniel didn't last very long. Once the secrecy disappeared, so did the excitement. Their relationship collapsed within 2 months. And suddenly the thing she had destroyed her marriage for, was gone too. When I heard that, I didn't feel satisfaction. Just a strange sense of closure. Because revenge had never really been the goal. Justice was. And in the end, the truth handled everything. So if anyone reading this is going through something similar, here's the only advice I can give. Don't react in anger. Don't destroy yourself trying to get even. Just stay calm. Collect the truth. And let the consequences do the rest. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply letting the truth speak for itself. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I post new Reddit stories about cheating, relationships, and crazy life situations every day. And if you have a story like this, feel free to share it in the comments.